Hey guys, welcome to Draft Like a Pro, episode 2. Last week we did our initial drafts and it did not go well. This was not a good week for the pros. Everyone on FPL Twitter was melting down. Nothing seemed to go right for anyone. But we do have some end product to show in the form of myself managing to pull it out in Premier League Pro. So this week, Fulham were playing Luton, and I am the number one Fulham collector. And so I was hoping to pull in a lot of rewards with my Fulham jerseys, and that happened. And so I managed to come up 190th out of 200 in Premier League Pro, and I managed to get some other end product in. I came in with my Brent Leno, got me a prize in Cap 270 with some of my J League guys in Carlos Vea. I got my $5 in with Cap 240 with my Magic Shane Duffy card, who's actually gotten me 5 rewards in the last 6 game weeks. And then this is what the main show is about. This is Premier League Amateur, which we'll get to in a second. But we're going to start off with a reward opening because who does not love a reward opening? And so what we're going to do from now on is that I'm going to be playing Prem Pro and I'm going to be giving away all the Prem Pro cards I win. And Max is going to be playing Semi Pro. And we're both going to give away cards on Twitter. So it all depends, though, if we can get these videos up to 20 likes. So we got an English defender from Everton. We got Ashley Young. I think that's a fun card to pull. Ashley Young is playing. I think there was an injury to Everton at the weekend. He should be a starter. That should be a good card for whoever wins, don't you think, Max?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's on set pieces as well, if I recall, and potentially could be played out of position in a forward role. He has a history of it, so why not? Everton,
Yeah.
They don't really like scoring a lot of goals, but maybe going forward they'll be a bit better at keeping clean sheets.
Cool. I got excited for a second there because between me and Max, one of my favorite players is Rory. And I saw a Moroccan forward and I thought, no way, am I going to get Rory? But I don't know who he is. Doesn't matter. So, yeah, just to go back to Premier League Amateur, this was my team, the results that happened. We saw City had a pretty good game, 3-1 victory, can't complain. We saw up top that Holland and Doku, my limited cards there, both pulled me in some rewards. But the defense wasn't really there. Gvardiol was actually the lowest scoring defender. And yeah, I didn't love it. Liverpool, another 3-1 win. Again, we're backing winners here. We're getting players on winning teams. Players which should get attacking output, key players on winning teams. But Shabashlai didn't manage to pull the decisive, and at this level, it's not good enough. Up top, Kulishevsky got the late goal, and Hungman Son did nothing. And I think Son was what really caused FPL Twitter to melt down. That pretty much everyone brought in Son and captain him, and it did not go well. So I ended up finishing on a pretty poor 293 points when I was really aiming for 350 and above. Didn't come close to winning Quinny's competition that required a 430-point score. So, end of the day, even though I got my formula right, I did not get the key results that I wanted. So I'm going to move on to you now, Max. Tell us about your game week.
Yeah, I mean, similar situation. Like all the teams I selected won. I think Anthony Gordon proved to be a decent pick. He won a penalty, had a decent chance that he could have scored. Madison, while he wasn't in the numbers in FPL, he didn't get a goal or an assist. He had a great attacking performance. I think he set up a number of chances for Spurs. Paro did decently well. But I think it's pretty unfortunate with Martinelli having a very strange goal ruled out for offside, and then he had an immediate injury afterwards. So he only ended up playing, I think, he was subbed off before halftime. It's probably about 30 minutes or so. When he'd been looking really good, he'd been looking like the best player on the pitch, in my opinion. So yeah, a little bit unfortunate on that one, but Arsenal got the win anyway. And then with Liverpool, Alisson, I was very close to the clean sheet. I don't think Alisson had many saves to make. I do think Wolves had some opportunities, but again, they didn't do a very good job of putting their chances away, except for the one which almost went straight at Alisson, but did manage to slip in. So yeah, it could have been a better week. On another week it could have gone differently, but it's a bit of unfortunate. It happens sometimes.
Yeah, it's pretty finding the guys who are winning to nil and getting the clean sheets in. I actually subbed Madison in FPL this week and got 1 point from him, but he got him at 75 and so rare. And I think that's one of the big positives of so rare that if you do look at his actually contributions, that he's getting his 2-1 tackles in as a centre midfielder, 9-1 duels, 38 accurate final third passes. Like these are insane. 18 penalty area entries, but in FPL he's only getting 1 point. But you can see why he was the number one pick on Play Sharper. But yeah, he got 75.8. Play Sharper were predicting he gets 61. Yeah, so that was a bit unfortunate. Anthony Gordon, it's a bit disappointing he didn't get a better all round score. He only had 4 penalty area entries and 2-1 contests. I think a winger like him, you want to get some attempted assists or whatever. But yeah, yeah, -2 duels lost. Brentford are pretty good. It wasn't an easy one. It's a pretty big pick, but you were rewarded with the decisive. And then Arsenal. One cool thing I thought about the Arsenal game was that I said my big pick for the week in terms of outperforming was Fabio Vieira, and he came in and he actually started ahead of Havertz, but he only came away with a 45 with a 41 cap, so it wasn't particularly impressive. But I'm hoping he can lock down because he actually had the assist for Martinelli as well. Now that I think back to it, I thought it was a really nice key pass, and the goal being disallowed was pretty insane. So cool. Now just to look forward, I managed to get my power rankings working. So this is going to be game week 6. And the first big thing that jumps out at us is that Man City are playing Nottingham Forest and they are 87.7% odds on to win. This is insane. But last week we were saying that the bookies had everything right, but Man City still didn't keep a clean sheet. And last week I decided to get in Ederson and Gvardiol. So I'm in a bit of a tight spot with them. Are you thinking of getting in any City players? Just seeing how favored they are?
I mean, yeah, most definitely. It looks like Haaland and Alvarez are in a position now where they're very likely to spike in price very soon. So if it's possible to get both of them in, that's an ideal scenario. But I think I have some other fires to put out maybe in my team, so I might have to opt for just the one.
Yeah, Haaland had 5 big chances missed, and tonight we're recording this as the game is happening. But he had 2 big chances missed in the first half. He is getting an insane amount of chances. So as long as he starts just to meet his XG, he should be doing good. 'Cause actually, I saw his XG stats are kind of crazy. That this year he's on basically 7 goals for 8 XG, whereas last year he was scoring like 2 goals for every 1.5 XG. So if this was on the same form as last year, he should be on 13 goals. So yeah, he's just absolutely crushing it. The next team coming in is Brighton versus Bournemouth, and 75%. That's pretty massive. But I find like Brighton are pretty hard team to get a grip on. That sometimes they play really well, and then sometimes things just don't work out and they lose. I watched the first half of the Manchester United Brighton game with my friends in the pub. Unfortunately, you couldn't come because you were sick, but you got to watch a lot of football. And Brighton were really, really impressive. They managed to just keep the ball, not let Man United near the ball, not let Old Trafford get going. It was a really, really impressive away performance.
Yeah, they were honestly dominant throughout the game. I think United had a number of chances, especially early on, but they didn't capitalize, and then Brighton just fully took advantage of the I guess the changes to how United were playing. I think there was a mention from De Zerbi of how United didn't set up how he anticipated, but then they made adaptations, and like it's something that Brighton are consistently proving they're capable of is adapting and outperforming the opposition when they make their adaptations. So uh, yeah, like you said, they're a little bit hard to read because again, I think they had 7 or 8 changes against United, which isn't ideal from a Sorare perspective. Obviously, I had Billy Gilmore last week, didn't have him starting, but have him in my set of players. I think I'll keep him. I still like Brighton. I still like the look of him based on his performances to date. So um, yeah, I'm feeling like optimistic about Brighton, but I don't think I'll be rushing to get any more of their players in because I have no idea who's going to start.
Yeah, that's the thing. Actually, in my FPL draft team, I decided to bench Pascal Gross and start Solly March. And then Gross had one of the highest performing weeks in FPL and ended up getting 10 points. And I got him actually subbed in, luckily. He's
Oh,
coming in at fourth, which is pretty crazy if you look at the players that are around him, like Haaland, Alvarez, Salah, Rodri, Foden, Saka. And then Matoma's the next one. Ferguson, we're not sure if he's starting yet or not, what his injury status is like. I don't have the Play Sharper rankings put into this. We don't really know at this point anyway, but I will be doing that in the future. You should get more accurate over time. And then Estupinian, obviously, Solly March. That's a lot of players up high.
yeah. How Pedro there
Yeah.
too?
Oh, yeah, João Pedro. Again, it's like if you know the starting forward for Brighton, you're in a good position. Just
Danny
do you
Welbeck.
know it? Danny Welbeck's great. He he actually is genuinely great for the way his general play is. That they they like to set up duels for their wingers through their nine. That a lot of the time you'll see other teams will just try and play it down the wing, do 1-2s up the wing. They're not afraid to play it into Danny Welbeck and try to him find the triangular pass off to Matoma, and yeah, and then set Matoma for the duel. And then the next up, we've got Liverpool versus West Ham. 71% to Liverpool. But they only have two players up here, and that's Salah plus Robertson. And we were talking before this about Salah and how he had a really low score just go out of his range. He had a 31 disappear, and so his price has gone from 58 to 71. So I
Yeah.
think we both love Salah, and we both missed a trick in not getting him because right now he's too expensive for either of us to get.
And he's playing West Ham as well. And I think anyone who's an FPL head would be familiar with how good Salah tends to be against West Ham. In FPL, I'll probably be getting him in this week. I'm suffering a bit of sunken cost fallacy in Sorare, so I'm not going to rush to get him in there. But um, yeah, it's hard to see him blanking against West Ham because he tends to not blank against West Ham. There's a famous uh, game, I think last season or the previous season, where everyone brought him in against West Ham because of his history against them. He started on the bench, so everyone was losing their minds about that. And then he came off the bench in the second half and scored 2 goals and got an assist. So, yeah, if he plays the full 90 against West Ham, despite how good West Ham have looked this season, it's hard to see past him.
Yeah, and the other name that's on the list is Robertson. And people who know Quinny, people who know Sorare TV, we do love Robbo. He's at 51. He's a pretty affordable pick. Or he's at 54, sorry. He's a pretty affordable pick. And I think he's a nice sneaky one to bring in if you've got the points. Okay, now we got the North London derby, Arsenal versus Tottenham. And straight away, we've only got one player involved in that, and this is Saka in terms of our power players. This is very hard to predict. I think I predict a lot of goals. Both teams are really, really good going forward. I'm not sure about defensively. And of course, actually, one of the big stories, Ramsdale got dropped. I think a lot of so rare people went 40 points for Ramsdale. There's no way he goes down. Let's get him in. And now he's gone. Well,
He could be rotated.
yeah, Jesus. I had Ramsdale starting in FPL and I had Areola come in to get 4 points. But Mikel Arteta was talking that, around like 59 minutes just to screw with FPL players and so rare players. I felt like, bringing on Ramsdale just so he gets 1 point in FPL. I was like, I would have killed you, Mikel. I would
Yeah,
have, yeah. I'm so happy he didn't do that. But yeah, Saka is always a good pick. Martinelli obviously injured. That affects things a lot.
it's hard to predict whether he'll be back or not. I mean, people will probably know by tomorrow our time because Arsenal have a Champions League match. But um, for the weekend, it's hard to say. And even then, you wouldn't necessarily want him against Spurs. Just too hard a game to predict.
Yeah. And then, okay, the next game. I can't believe Man United are this low when they're against Burnley. Like, Burnley, obviously, they've had injuries. They've had a really disjointed start of the season with the games being cancelled. They played really crap football on Monday to get the draw against Nottingham Forest. It was actually, I watched it, but I did not enjoy it. James Trafford got a booking in the 15th minute for time wasting. I think they got like 4 yellows for time wasting it was really horrible football that I'm surprised to see Vincent Company, especially because I watched his Anderlecht team a bit when Josh Cullen was there. Yeah, not yeah. Like Burnley aren't good. Man United should be bigger favourites, but they're not. Well, their player on this is Bruno Fernandes, and we were talking like a lot of people don't rate Ivan Perisic, right? And he's actually my most winning card in Sorare from last season. That his limited card is my most winning card, mostly from his Croatia performances. But he's actually managed to get 8 assists at Spurs, the same amount in the same time frame as Bruno Fernandes. But Perisic had an expected assists of 6, and Fernandes had expected assists of 21. Like he had expected to get 21 assists, and he's gotten 8. It's so hard to justify picking him. Like I picked him up in FPL thinking that Rasmus matches XG. It's going to be absolutely fine. Fernandez is going to be rolling in assists. And he hasn't been. Like every single week, it's big chance created, 5 attempted assists, and no return.
Yeah, I mean, people talked about Weghorst in a similar vein, like, oh, well, he's coming to United. The least he can do is he can score goals. I know he didn't score a lot of goals for Burnley, but he didn't get a lot of service there. Everywhere else he's at least matched his XG. And then United, he really had a nightmare in terms of goal scoring, at least. And then he kind of had to leave the league after that because I think the Burnley fans weren't going to put up with him.
On the
Yeah,
other hand, when I was
it's
looking at Brighton's second goal, where they just passed it around, and I was looking at Hoyland and Rashford just walking, and I was thinking, man, if Weghorst is there, he's hunting these people down, he's making them work. But I think Hoyland still has a back issue where he's meant to reduce his load and not run too much, and Rashford is just doesn't close down. I'd love to see Weghorst still at United. Like,
yeah.
like
I mean,
personally, like I thought
he'd
their
do a
whole
job
transfer
for
window
Fulham.
was insane.
I'll tell you what, he'd do it. He'd do a job for Fulham.
Yeah, yeah, we'll get to Fulham in a minute, but we're gonna go on next to Brentford versus Everton. Brentford surprisingly have a player in here. Well, not that surprisingly, they've got Mbuemo. I was really surprised. Like we were debating who are the best under 23 forwards of the weekend because Man City played Doku, Alvarez, Foden, and Haaland, and it's so rare all 4 of those guys have forward cards. And I was saying, I think they might be the 4 best U23 forwards in the Premier League. But then we looked it up, and statistically, Mbuemo and Pedro Neto, who we'll also get to later, are better forwards than some of them. That I think like Alvarez was 1 and Haaland was
Alvarez
2,
on the
but then Mbuemo was 3rd. So yeah, Mbuemo will always be a nice pick. They got some of the, I'm a big fan of Norgard at Brentford, but I don't really watch them that much. It's not a fixture that's on my watch list really. Don't think I'm going to be picking up anyone from Brentford, even if it is a nice fixture.
Mm.
Yeah. So let's just move on quickly. Chelsea versus Aston Villa. I'm kind of surprised to see Chelsea favourites. And there is a lot of nice Chelsea picks out there because their scores are so low.
Oh yeah.
But even so, I don't really want to bait them. A lot of winners, actually, people who finished up really high had Robert Sanchez in goal. He got the highest goalkeeper score last week at like 95. But like I want to sit here and be like, oh, Chelsea's defense is good. You can get their defenders, but you don't know. Like Ben Chilwell was a very popular pick, and he got benched, got almost no score. So if we are going to go for a pick from Chelsea, Aston Villa, I'd probably go with Robert Sanchez because no player from this list, these players are on my power rankings.
Yeah.
Who would, yeah, who does have on my power rankings though? Fulham versus Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace, bigger favourites than they should be in my opinion, as the number 1 Fulham collector. But they've got Edward and they've got Eze. What do you think about this matchup?
I think I'm surprised that Fulham have scored as many goals this season as they have. And if I were picking any players for this game, I would go for Palace defenders. Fulham, they brought in Vinicius as a sub at the weekend, and he got the goal for them. Last season, he's a player who I know he scored about 5 goals, but I think he was quite frustrating to watch at times. He's not much of a goal scorer. We know Jimenez has had issues in the last few years with scoring goals. It's hard to see where the goals come from for Fulham, so I would probably go with a Palace defender.
Yeah, I was thinking that Palace. We're talking about how there's not many good defensive teams. That if you want to back a team defensively, like last year, you could go to Newcastle, you could hang your hat on Newcastle clean sheet every other week, and then the second half of the season, it became really apparent that United with Casemiro and De Gea, you could bang on them getting clean sheets every week. I think closest team to that at the moment is Palace. That Joachim Anderson is really, really good. But on the other hand, I think lots of people will last season especially, if you it's never a good idea betting against the Fulham goal. Like Fulham scored nearly every single game. They didn't score against Brentford after the whole Mitrovic saga ended. But I still believe that Harry Wilson, Willian on the wings, like Vinicius has been outperforming his XG. I think that's his sixth goal off like 4 XG for Fulham. Jimenez, like he's a lovely guy. You can tell he works hard, but he's not getting big chances. He doesn't have an XG to score. And I can't sit here and be like, oh, he's missing big chances, that he's like a Veghorst, but he's just not getting chances and he's not scoring.
I heard he hasn't scored a league goal for a year and a half or something like that. It's
Yeah, he scored 2 goals for Mexico just there, but oh well. Like
if
I'd love for him to
he
start
get a
scoring.
penalty, he's scoring. That I know, but outside of that, it's hard to see it.
Yeah, so I can't really recommend any Fulham players. Although one fun fact is that Polina scores way better versus good teams than he does versus bad teams.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's a battle, we could be looking at Polina with 6 tackles and 10-1 duels. But you can't bank on that. I think those odds, like I don't bet for a reason. Like betting, the bookies tend to know things that you don't, straight up. That's why they got every single result right last week in terms of their favorites. So going against them is a bad idea, but I'm sus of this over 50% odds for Palace to win. And especially sus of Luton being the like Wolves versus Luton being the closest game. So Luton are at home, Wolves are away. Wolves have got Pedro Neto, who I am a huge fan of. Have you been watching any Wolves recently?
I think a lot of people would have seen the highlights of Wolves against Liverpool. First half, he was on fire. Second half, a little off the kilter. I think Fulham or Wolves overall kind of calmed down second half, and Liverpool just kind of took the game to them. But if they can keep that momentum that they had from the first half over the course of a full game, and Neto in particular can, he's bound to score goals, get assists. Yeah, it feels inevitable with Wolves. Like they probably have quite a high XG for the number of goals they scored this season. Um,
Yeah, Cunha in particular underperformed his XG, even though he's been really good in terms of winning duels with the ball and setting up his wingers. I think Kalajdzic has been an interesting forward. I love those specialist forwards. Like I was a huge Peter Crouch fan back in the day. Kalajdzic provides questions that aren't normally asked at the Premier League level, like how good is your goalkeeper at commanding the box? How can you do against someone who has just a guaranteed knockdown every time?
mhm.
So I think Wolves versus Luton is interesting. Like I want to like Luton. I want to believe that they'll do well, but it's so hard to pick their players. And I'm actually going to target this. So I'm going to close this down and I'm going to go to play the upcoming and I'm going to do my swap live on a Tuesday. So obviously, Hungmin Son didn't. He's still at 58. I can get him later. He's not gonna do crazy things versus Arsenal, in my opinion. Kulishevsky's up to 54, so I'm gonna get rid of him. I'm not gonna get rid of him even, and I'm gonna get rid of Pau Torres as well, just because I want to keep Guardiola, I want to keep Vieira, and I'm gonna go straight in, and I'm gonna lock in Pedro Neto away to Luton, and then in defense, I'm trying to remember who I noted down. Oh yes, I wanted to go for Brighton. I decided to go for Lewis Dunk. Just bang on 51 points. Confirm selection. Lock it in. And we're going to be looking at Edison. We're going to be looking at Gvardiol. We're going to be looking at Shabashlai. We're looking at Neto. And we're going to be looking at Lewis Dunk. And we're going to be captaining I really want to be differential and go for Captain Neto, but it's going to be Captain Shabashli. So if I hit confirm there, and my team has been saved, and if I go over to my Sorare data lineup builder, I should be able to get a rating for this. See what the Sorare data API thinks of my team, and save. Damn, I was expecting it to give me a rating, but it looks like that feature is not on Premier League Amateur. So we're still learning on this show. We hope to make it better week to week. So I will come up with my own rating algorithm now that I know that Sorare data doesn't do that. But yeah, I'm gonna give the stream over to you, Max, if you want to share your screen, and we'll see you lock in your picks.
Sure. Right. So this is my team for the past week. I think there are a couple of obvious picks that I want to omit, and those are the players who did not score as well as I anticipated they would. The first one's Martinelli. Obviously, there's a chance that he's out, even if he's in. I have no idea how the game against Spurs will go. The other pick that I want to remove is Allison. I just reckon Liverpool's defense, they will concede chances. West Ham have set pieces with James Ward-Prowse on them. I can definitely see West Ham scoring from a set piece against Liverpool. So those are the players I'm removing, and the players who I'm bringing in. Well, the first one I think is a little bit obvious. It is not going to be Haaland. Haaland is probably a better pick in general, but Julian Alvarez, I give him a slight preference because he's on set pieces additionally, and he's just been playing a bit better than Haaland so far, I think. While Haaland's probably a better player, he's a higher peak. I think Alvarez will just be more consistent. He's a higher floor. And then in goal, I am going to swap in again, maybe a little bit obvious, but it is going to be Nick Pope. Newcastle, I said last week that they haven't proven themselves defensively so far this season. They didn't have a clean sheet as of yet. Now they do. Now they have 2 on the bounce, and they have a nice run of fixtures. So it's the perfect time to get him in. And then this is actually my selection. Well, that's nice.
That's nice. Yeah, like I think I've kind of made a mistake going for Edison plus Guardiola and lock myself out of the City attack. Julian Alvarez is locked in 100 tonight. His price is going to go up big time, I think, after this week. He is obviously, with De Bruyne out, he's got that nice spot. They're playing basically a 4-2-3-1 with Alvarez in the middle of the three. And yeah, on one side he's got Foden, on one side he's got Doku, and then they can bring on Bernardo Silva or whatever other wingers they have. I'm sure they've got lots of amazing wingers. I can't think off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to believe that Newcastle will start getting clean sheets again, especially if they got the matchups to do it, especially away from home. Actually,
Yeah.
they can just be really mean and do it.
I mean, they kept a clean sheet away to Milan. That was the first time Milan haven't conceded or haven't scored a goal in a long time. I know
they were very lucky to keep a clean sheet.
Yeah, but Nick Pope played well.
Nick Pope actually pretty much pulled out 100 in the midweek as well. He got close to it. So yeah, subbing in 2 guys who got 100 in the midweek, that seems like a really solid strat.
And the only other swap is Pedro Paro to Matty Cash, because Chelsea's left side. I don't know if Chilwell's going to play. I don't know if he's trusted, and if he isn't, well, I think Matty Cash is going to have some chances. Either way, and obviously Julian Alvarez has to be the captain this week. If he plays, Pep. I don't know what Pep's going to do, but if Julian Alvarez plays, I reckon he'll probably get a pretty high score. So that is my team.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous. I think we've got 2 very different strategies that you're going into trying to build the best 8, whereas I'm kind of hunting matchups. That the fact that Brighton are such big favourites. Maybe Dunk is a bit unambitious going for the centre back. That Estupiñán is slightly too expensive for me. I think Gvardiol plus Ederson when you've got City's attack. We were just saying like their front 4 of just Doku, Foden, Alvarez, and Haaland. It kind of feels the most settled I've ever seen a Pep Guardiola attack.
Yeah.
I really like that team. It's making me kind of question my decisions, but I'm still confident that I'll get a good score. That we will be seeing Edison and Gradio. I still believe Gradio is going to end up with an L15 of like 50, 60, but it's going to take time because he's got a lot of games in his backlog
Hmm.
from Leipzig that were. He's got a lot of okay games as well there for Croatia. That yeah, and he's going to end up being like this really really nice pick. But yeah, City top team, top attack. Madison. Sometimes you gotta when there's like Quinny has this saying that when it comes to big games, we back big players. That it's not always optimal to pick like your best players against the worst team. That
Hmm.
sometimes best players bring out their best performances against great teams. And North London Derby, I think this is Madison's first one, backing him to do a big thing. It's statistically, it's not brilliant. It's not people wouldn't love it, but like this is very much an FC Barcelona, as they say, strategy.
Well, I'm anticipating Richarlison getting at least three chances that are created by James Madison. So, um,
So you're
you know,
expecting three
he'll get
chances created, no
chances,
assists.
regardless of whether he gets goals or assists. He'll create some chances. Um,
Yeah, I think it's a case that you're gonna like maybe be
so,
moving forward a little bit. You're gonna be swapping out Matty Cash maybe for or another defender in for a Newcastle defender.
well, I have Anthony Gordon as well, right?
Oh,
So,
you got Gordon. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's the thing that you have a lot of swaps, but it's still never enough.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how he
Yeah.
does this week. And
So
it's possible to swap him in the Newcastle defender in
cool.
it. He's
We'll call it there. So, comment down below what your team is. Who do you think is going to outperform their L15 the most? Who do you think is going to be the top scorer? Don't forget to like the video. If this gets to, let's say, 20 likes, 20, we got like 200 views in the last one, which I was pretty happy with. So we're going to say 20 likes, 10% like ratio. I'll give away the Actually Young on Twitter at Conor Aspell. So thank you all for watching. See you guys next week.